Hey, what's up, everybody? We're just going to do this quick screencast here. So the other day, my colleague and I, Casper, were
Hi.
speaking. Say hi, Casper.
Hi.
So Casper's from the Netherlands. How long have you been developing now?
I can't call it, man. Off and on since I was 12, so yeah,
Yeah, a
good.
long time.
15, more than 15 years probably, yeah.
Oh man. So we were speaking the other day, and he was helping me out with another tutorial that we did, and and then we were just talking about Git repos. And one thing for me is that I learned some of the basics of Git through university, and that's really been my kind of only exposure to Git. And he was looking at my Git repo, and he was like, "Man, this is just out of sorts, basically." And so I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to basically do like a live screencast and just discuss some ways that we can improve our Git workflow and kind of the right way to upload the Git, to start a repo, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a demonstration. I'm just going to have a project that I'm going to initialize a Git repo on, and then I'm gonna initialize it on I'm gonna initialize it on Git, and then as I'm doing it, Casper's gonna walk me through and point out some things that I can maybe improve on, or some things that I might need to change. So so here I have my GitHub. Um,
Can you share the screen because I
oh,
can't see your screen.
okay. So
Yeah, share it again.
we're gonna do a screen share.
There you go.
Pardon me. So so here we are. And I'm
All
gonna
right.
and so from here I'm gonna do a new repository, and then I'm just gonna call this test Git. So
Or
from
how
here,
to get. No, let's go.
what's that?
Nothing.
So from here I don't need to do anything else. I just create the repository. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I just create this.
Oh, yeah. It had option for git ignore, but we'll go into that later.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So what I would normally do. So I'm just gonna pick one of these small projects out here to
Yeah.
demonstrate on. So normally what I would do is I would go to command line now, and I would um, I would cd into that folder.
Which is good. See, now you're teaching me some tricks.
You didn't know you could do
That's
that.
fucking brilliant, man. Oh, so that's effing brilliant. Yeah, I didn't know you could drag and drop and it would like. I always go right click and then alt click the copy the path name and something like that.
Oh wow.
Okay, good.
Okay. So
Uh, yeah.
so now I would do git init, right?
Let's see. Wait, scroll a bit down on the page. In the meantime, was it what other options does it say?
Okay, so we got
Okay, this for a new repository, push an existing repository, and what's the third one? Import code. Oh no, okay, yeah, no. So exactly right. We'll do a git init.
Yeah,
Yeah.
git init, and then
Now, don't do the next one.
okay.
So you don't have a readme.md, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Git init should be coming back quite quickly. Yeah.
So
Empty git repo, that's good. And now the one command for git you always need to know is just git status. So just let's check that one first. Just git status.
okay, and what does this do? I know what it does, but can you explain for everybody what this does?
Uh, sure. Yeah. In not too many words, I think it just gives it gives a few things. It gives you information on how your current the current state of the files in the current directory, how they are connected to the last or head commit on the repo
Okay.
and the repository. And mind you, that is the local repository, and also gives you some information on how that repository is synced to the remote repository, which is GitHub in this case.
Okay. So basically, sorry to interrupt. So
you can interrupt. Yeah.
so my understanding is that when it shows in the red here, it's just showing that there have been some changes made on these particular files, and that essentially I need to do something. I need to do something about it in order to either I need to commit the files, or that I need to basically reset it, and so it ignores the changes. So that's my understanding. And
that's. I think that's a good explanation. If your point of view is that you want to be in sync with the repository.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think any red line needs to mean necessarily that needs to be not red or something. Mm-hmm. But in most cases, yeah.
Okay. And just for people, there are probably people out there that may have, I would imagine, have like little or possibly no experience with Git, and so just to kind of explain to people what Git is, like this is the way that I understand it, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong. So Git is a mechanism that basically enables developers from different areas, or just even if you're working in the same company, to basically work together on the same project, and to basically make changes, and then also create different versions of the same project, so you can branch off and do, if you're going to be making a lot of changes, you might want to branch off and start making a bunch of changes, rather than trying to make all kinds of wholesale changes to the main project that serves as like your master copy. So is that a decent summary of what Git
exactly? Yeah, it's version management, and that's very crucial in this world of code. Is that you don't try to get version 1.c of that date made by Casper sent to you in an email, so that you can insert that into the code back again on your side and stuff. Mm-hmm. The Git, the repository is really the main. It tracks all your changes.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of like so it's kind of like a sketch pad, or like a tree that kind of it branches out, but then you always have kind of a working copy that serves as like kind of like, this is the copy that we would like put out, that we would sell, or whatever. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, cool. So just a summary for people. Git is what enables us to save versions of our project, and to go and make multiple changes, and do kind of branch offs, and basically be able to keep all of those changes in one place, where we can see what changes have been made, and then go back if we happen to mess things up.
Yeah, exactly. And Git really gets, as long as you get to know Git, the better you get to know how Git works, the more it gets out of your way doing that. So managing those versions will get better and better. And so what's your next step?
Okay, so now we have so I would do a Git commit. Actually, hold on. So I would do a Git add.
Before you hit enter, let me check it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So normally I would do Git add dot, because that's adding all the files to the repo. Is that
right?
Is that correct?
And I'm not. I don't agree, because in this case you would be adding those the top two folders in the listing, the builds folder and the. You can close the Finder window if you want. It's not. But the builds folder and the Juice library code folder. Sorry.
And why
and they need to not be on Git?
Yeah. Okay. And why not?
Okay. For the builds, there's a few reasons. So the general rule is, for Git, everything that can be generated from your code should not be on Git.
Okay.
So that's for the builds folder. That's one reason. And the more specific reason in this case is Git is really made for text files, source code.
Okay.
Right? It stores, a Git repository stores the difference from the previous commit to the next commit. So Git is not a repository that stores the whole version of a file for each version.
I see.
It doesn't save the whole file.
Okay.
It saves the changes, and that's what makes it possible for Git to be really, really fast. But then, as your executables start becoming like 1 megabyte, then every commit will be a full megabyte.
I see.
Right? 1,000 commits later, you're up to a gigabyte. If you're asking somebody to help you on your project, he will have to download a gigabyte of Git repository.
I see.
And then, in which could be like the Windows executables while he's working on a Mac, or the other way around, right?
Yeah.
There's no selecting, because a Git clone will clone the entire repository. So it should be text files pretty much only.
Okay.
Or if you're doing any types of binary files, binary, like bitmaps, your GIFs, your JPEGs, whatever, your PNGs, then make sure that it's binary files that don't change.
Okay.
Right? But with your executable, it could be like, every bit will be different the next commit. So and also, you would have to do another extra step before you do a Git commit.
Okay.
Because it might be that if you're committing, but you didn't do a build for that version, so you know you have a bug and you know that you fixed it in the source code, and you're committing the whole tree, right, including the builds folder, then you would commit the executable with the bug still in there, right?
I see.
Because you didn't build it.
Yeah.
So that's another little trick, but in general, builds should not be in there, and in my opinion, use library code neither, because you're not changing it. It's not part of your project really. It's included, and in this case, it's not generated, but that folder will be regenerated when you launch the producer and say, the save whole project. It will copy those files, or if there's something wrong. I'm not entirely sure how the producer works from the inside, but that's the other thing. So how we're going to accomplish that is by not doing a git add dot, but instead of that command, we're going to make the text file called .gitignore.
Okay. So
I think, you know what? You can, just do the vim one. Just so remove git also, and then just say vim, space, and then .gitignore is one file name. It's not there yet, but we're going to make it.
Okay, and that's it?
Can you remove the mouse cursor from the line? I think it's right. yeah, that's exactly right. All right, go.
Okay.
And then type I.
Okay.
All right, and then type builds, just with the same capitalization.
Okay.
And a slash at the end. Enter. Next line, and now juice library code, again with the same capitalization as it is on, Alright, slash, enter, and now hit, just enter.
Okay.
Sorry. And hit escape.
Escape.
Right, and now you're going to type colon.
Okay.
Colon. And then WQ. And that's write quit, so enter.
Okay.
Alright, there you go. And now we've changed with that gitignore file, which is project specific, we've changed how Git Status handles the files that it sees changed. So if you do Git Status again, which you can do, of course, by twice the up arrow and enter.
Oh, yeah.
Or typing it, which is fine. See, so now it's removed those two folders from the repository, or the possible repository in potential repository in this case, but it hasn't removed it from the file system, of course, because then your project wouldn't work anymore. Okay. But it added the .ignore file, the .gitignore file.
Okay. So just to kind of review for a second, what we've done there. So basically what we've done is we've used the command vim.gitignore to create a file that's like a text. It's basically like a hidden text file.
It's exactly a text file, yeah.
So basically it's like a text file, and then in there we basically we were basically able to name the folders that we weren't that we do not wish to add to the Git repository, the ones that we wish to ignore, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so now basically we have two files. We have the source file and we have the audio out, the juicer file.
Yeah.
And so
the .gitignore file.
Yeah.
Not unimportant.
Okay.
so the nice thing about that gitignore way of working is that now when somebody else goes to work with you on this project, he or she will clone the project and will also get that .gitignore file.
Okay.
So when he or she builds, also on his, or I'm going to say his side for now, it's just easier. On his side, it would be also the git status command would not even suggest to add the builds folder because it's already on the gitignore, which he also pulled from the repository.
I see.
So it's a great way of working.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now I guess you would do what you wanted to do earlier, which is the git add dot, and that for now that's great.
Okay. And so this is adding all of the files in the repository to it's adding all the files to the repository. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that
and to make it a little bit more clear, it adds all the files in red that you just saw before coming out of the git status command.
Okay.
Right. So unchanged files will not be added because there's nothing to be changed. Now again, do the git status because it's always fun to see what types of info it gives you at certain, or fun. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but yeah. So here you can see inside source, it added 2 files. All right, good.
Okay. So
now?
So now I would do git commit. And then what I would do is -am. Is that accurate? And then I would put.
I don't know what the A stands for.
I think A is all. It's just the way that I learned in university. I don't know if that's the right way. So tell me the way you.
No, I think I think the A is doing the add again for you, which you already just did.
Okay.
Let me look it up for you for a quick second. Well, I'm not so sure. Well, all right. So you would type the message in the command line, right?
Okay. So we.
All right.
So the way you would normally do is just git commit -m. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. I see that the A is indeed it's doing the same thing as the git add dot that we just did.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
in this case, you could leave out the git add dot and then do the -am, and it would have the same effect, except for you would not see the Git Status command in between, right?
I see.
You would have a little less control, I feel. So the Git Status is like your ls command in between commands, so that you can see where are we at right now.
Okay, cool. And ls is just to show the files that are in the folder, just for anybody that doesn't. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I do git commit -m, and what's the -m actually mean? Does that mean just like give it a message?
That's a message. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So normally, what would you put here? Like first commit or adding files or?
Yeah, for the first commit, it's always something like initial commit or
Okay.
I think the first one, that one doesn't need to be the most descriptive one. At some point when the project grows, you want to make sure that you can find the right commit by the message, because the rest of the stuff, the message is the one you can identify as a human the commit the quickest with, I feel.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Cool. So I'll hit enter here.
Yeah.
So now it's committing. So now it's committing these files.
Yeah.
Which basically means that it's adding. So what does that actually mean? So I've added the files using git add. So commit, does that mean that, okay, like I'm getting ready to, I'm just like kind of putting this in a folder where I'm saying these are the ones that I want to save now to the repo? Or?
Something like that. So there's 3 levels to this, let's say.
Okay.
So those who are familiar with Subversion or other, like, management systems that came before Git, the difference is that you have a repository on a server, GitHub in this instance, and also you have a repository on your computer.
I see. Okay.
Sorry. So that repository has the full history of your project, right? So in this case, commit is you have a set of changes on a set of files.
Okay.
And that's a commit.
Okay.
You package them into one stream of like, okay, this is one change with this message. And commit means I'm pushing that one big chunk of change to my local repository.
Okay. So just to clarify for people, so you have creating a Git repository on your local drive, meaning on your computer, is actually a separate thing from creating a Git on a Git repository on your GitHub.
Entirely, yeah.
So,
and we've now Git init is the one that started the repository for us.
Yeah.
And that's an empty repository, so it's not interesting enough to link it to your, server GitHub repository. Now we have our first change, so to speak, our initial commit. It's just the difference between an empty set of files and these 4 files that we just added. And the add command comes before commit. Because I think you wanted me to clarify that one as well a little bit. The add command adds those differences in the files that you pointed to. In this case, the dot, of course, is like kind of shorthand for everything that has changed. But you could do file for file. You could see, I only want to do this, add this file, and add this file. And the add command adds it to the index, which is the Git terminology for index is just the list of changes that are going to be committed on next commit command.
Okay.
So you've got some time and you can do multiple commands like git add only .git ignore, and then the rest will come in another commit, say, and then you can commit that, and then the next one you're going to do git add dot and add the real files, something like that. So you could do that in multiple ways.
Okay, cool. Okay, so now we need to just basically push to the remote. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
So now you would just copy paste the git remote line probably.
So basically, what this is doing is this is telling my Git repository, my local Git repository, the one that's on my the one that's actually on my computer that that I want to sync all the changes that are happening with the with this remote repository, which is at this link. Is that accurate?
Yes, but with the connotation. How do you say? Mind you, that sync that you mentioned, that's not automatic.
Okay.
In any sense, so you've still got the full control of when you want to sync it to the remote and sync it back, and so. But everything else you said was exactly right. So, yeah, this is what you're doing. You're setting up the link for your local repository and the remote. So you're telling it this is upstream now or downstream, whatever. Those words confuse me to no end. Always, it's one or the other.
Okay.
But this is the link, let's say.
Okay. So I'm just going to hit enter now. Okay. So when I get to that line, that means everything is good. Everything's good to go. And then now, should I? This is something that I've always wondered. Should I push origin to the master and then start a branch right away, or should I? What should I do here? So I should definitely do git push.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Dash view origin master, because if I don't do this, then I won't have a master.
Oh, watch the typo. Yeah.
So this is actually pushing these files up to the GitHub repository.
Yeah, and mind how small the objects written are, huh?
So it's 3.69 kilobytes.
Yes. Yeah. So that's looking like a Git repo initial commit. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, great. Okay. So now from here, would you normally start a branch off of this, or right away?
I don't know, man. There's different styles. I like working with branches. But the project I'm working on right now, for myself, is very much a solo project still. So I'm doing branches only locally, and then because my machine is the one that gets developed on and tested on and everything. So it's also the only one that needs to know about that branch. So I just merge it to master locally and then push it to master remote. Okay. But if you're working in a team, you're gonna want to have a branch per user story, or a branch per day, maybe, like whatever. It could differ, and there's multiple styles. Some professional teams really do away with branches completely, and everybody just pushes on develop or master branch. In this case, you're doing also a solo project, so it's your choice. I think you're fine just doing commits on master.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So now we're basically done. Is that right?
Yeah, you can go to the GitHub page and refresh, and you'll see some source files, right?
Okay. Okay, so this just means everything's kind of
beautiful.
Everything's uploaded properly here. Okay.
Yeah. And the nice thing here is also with juice projects, you need to be very sure to include the juicer file itself in your Git repository, and always check if there's changes. So the danger of doing Git one of the dangers of doing Git from the command line is, for instance, if you're inside the source folder, Git status will show you that also the juicer file changed, but if you do a git add dot, it will not add the juicer file because it's one level up from the source folder.
Okay.
Feel me? So if you do a git add dot, it only adds all the changed files in the current directory, working directory, and everything below.
Okay.
So recursively everything beneath, but one level up or more, it won't loop for you.
Okay.
So that's why I like to teach that after you do the git add dot, especially, you always do a git status to see if there's things you missed, or if there's red lines, maybe there are things you explicitly don't want to put in that commit, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But the command line gives you control, but it's also, you can make a mistake that way. But in this case, we've done everything exactly right, I feel. So, I don't know, maybe you want to maybe you want to give me some read and or write rights, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just demonstrate, okay, so now Casper, let's say that Casper and I are just working together on this project, and that, so now I need to give him permission to be able to basically make changes to this repository. Okay, so how do I do that?
That's a good question. Let me see. Try the settings tab.
Okay.
On this repository, yeah. I think there will be collaborators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Right, and here in the field you can just type my full name without spaces or dots or anything. If you type Casper Ravenhorst, I think it will be. There you go.
Great. Okay, so now.
All right, add collaborator, and then you can. Oh no, I need to check the invite. So.
Okay.
Keep your screen share on. I think I'll see if I get that. And there you go. The audio programmer invited you to collaborate. View invitation. Accept. And I guess now if you refresh the page, please.
My computer's a little bit slow because we're screen. Okay, great.
All right. Already push access. Okay, good. So I guess I can just go ahead and clone it and stuff. All right, cool. Okay. So maybe we should switch to my screen share. That's right. So, man, it's terrible light here. Huh? Yeah, sorry guys, but okay. Anyway, more important is the screen. So let's see. Yeah, exactly. So now you're seeing yourself, I'm guessing. All right, you're seeing what I'm doing, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. So let's refresh. Well, okay, so I'm here on the same page, and say I want to see what it is all about. I'll do here the copy to clipboard for the Git remote repository link.
Okay.
All right, copied, and then wait. I'm going to put this over here so they're nicely next to each other. Okay. I'm going to do the Git clone. Okay. Just like that.
And what is this that you have? So this is what's it called? So this is your terminal on here. Is this a different program?
It's a customization for your normal terminal. So
okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't get into it too much. But it's just
some,
I mean,
some
I can
super
tell you
hacker
right
business.
now that it's a headache to customize terminals, so I just grab somebody else's configuration and try to tweak that.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been all right. So
Nice.
The best thing about this program actually that I'm using is Tmux, and that what I like about that is that I can just go here and just split the screen and just type some other command here or something, and I can just look at something over here and then go to the left side back again or something. But for now, let's not get into that. It's not important. So yeah, we really wanted to see if I could have something that needed to be changed or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, we could just like put some sample something, and then just just for like a demonstration.
Exactly. Yeah, so maybe I should just use Juicer for that as well. Producer, sorry.
Okay.
Doesn't make much sense to edit this stuff in the terminal. Let's see. Well, let's say I just remove this comment. Well, there's something. Yeah. Anything else? Looks fine.
Okay. And just quickly, like a quick question.
Yeah.
So you're working in Vim with this file rather than in Xcode. Is there any sort of advantage or disadvantage, or any reason to or
actually,
not to?
to me, the Xcode. I'm using Xcode for my own project, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm using Vim to edit. But I've been using Vim for like small edits, especially for a number of years. So just for that, it's really quick.
Okay, cool.
But I don't use Vim full time on my project, mostly because I'm building from Xcode, and I've read up a little bit on that. Yeah, that you could, or I could, set up Vim that it can run Xcode's compiler and then give me back the compiler warnings and error messages. But it's too much to set it up, and since I've been learning Xcode a little bit and all these keyboard shortcuts, it's fine by me. But it's getting along with, or knowing how to get along with Vim is just nice in general. For anything you want to do on a Linux or POSIX-based terminal, because a lot of commands will have the same kind of keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that, like Vim has.
Awesome.
So if you do a Git Commit command without the -m, you're going to have to fill in a commit message, right?
Yeah.
And it will launch Vim for you by default.
Awesome.
And there's also there's obviously, for beginners, people will say, well, just change your standard editor into Nano or something, which is fine. But yeah, in the long run, let's say the long run, because this is what Vim is famous for. In the long run, Vim has a lot of positive effect on your how do you say?
Workflow?
Positive effect on your efficiency editing code, I would say, yeah. Right, so I did a little change, and I have to remind not to use any of my, I have these abbreviations for most Git commands. Wait, I can show you. You can make aliases on the command prompt, right?
Okay.
So I will just see if I can show you. These are my Git aliases. So instead of git add, I would do GA. So I can do a GA space dot, and it would do the whole git add dot. A lot of these things are really handy. GCL for new repository clone, GCO for checkout, and all those things. But mind you, I'm going to try and keep it all just so I'm not typing C for clear, but just the whole word clear here to clear the screen. And let me do a Git Status, which would be normally GS. Tells me I modified this. And now, next to Git Status, which is also nice to do. I see that it modified it, but I don't know what modifications I did. Well, I do, but let's say I want to refresh my memory. I can do a git diff for difference. And it says in red I removed these lines, right?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I want to do a little bit more changes, so maybe I want to add something new. There we go.
Okay.
So something like that. And now let's see again what it does. So you see, I removed these lines and I added these lines. All right, that's fine. Let's say I want to add that. So now, again, I'll do the Git Status. Right, and also mind you that when you do Git Status, it will show you the files relative to where you are currently in your command prompt, right? So now this test Git, the whole repo's root is basically my working directory. So it shows me source/main.cpp. And when I make a difference in another file, for instance in the git ignore, don't add any files that end on exe. You could do that, right? That would be a good rule, but whatever. Then Git Status will show me right here in the root. This one, and right in the source folder, we'll have only main.cpp, and the danger I told you about before, if you go into source, because normally all your edits will be in that folder, you do a Git Status, and it will show you, hold on, one level up, you have this git ignore changed.
Okay.
All right. So let's undo that. There you go. Now, one last time, I feel we're getting ready to do git add. Dot, and again, just to be sure, the git status. All right, this is modified, and now it also here. So this is very telling, this line, because there can be multiple of these, paragraphs. So changes not staged for commit is one, changes to be committed is another one, right? So that's what git status. You do it a lot. You learn to read it. Like, where am I at right now with my local repository mainly.
Okay.
So now, because I like to do multi-line commit messages, especially when I've done a lot of changes. So I will say just git commit. Is that right? Yeah. And it will launch me again into this Vim editor, but it will also have some comments here from line 2 until the end, right? Showing me a little bit what. Well, especially this is very handy to see inside your commit messages. Inside while you're composing your commit message, it will show you what files you might want to say something about.
Okay.
Right. So I'll say, so this should be, remove comment, and also added, project name and version number in main CPP comments or something like that.
Okay.
I'll go with that. Okay, let's do that. And now now it's all in my local repository, but the GitHub side has still not changed. So for that, I've did the first level was git add to add it to the index to be committed. Then the git commit to have that change, let's say, written in stone of my local Git repository, and now to make sure that the remote repository knows and gets updated with this change as well. I have to do a Git push, and it will say, I'm not sure if this will work. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, I'm guessing if I go back to the browser now, where's here? Now we'll see this change. It'll be 2 commits, right? And right. So if I have one by you, one by me. Right.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So now let's say that I wanna, now it's my turn to collaborate on this project. I want to do some changes. Okay. So my understanding is now I need to do a git pull, because what I need to do is I need to get the changes that you've created.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So so would I do? Okay. So would I do that from here? So from this link right here.
Wait, I think you want to do screen sharing again, right?
Oh yes. Sorry.
So I'll stop mine and then.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want to get my link from here, correct?
No, you don't really have to.
Okay.
No, I don't feel that's necessary.
Okay.
If you go back to the same terminal, yeah. Well, what you would start with is just another Git status. That's always best. Okay. If you're unsure, just do another Git status, and it'll tell you a lot.
Okay.
All right. It says on branch master. It says, see, and that's the danger. It says your branch is up to date, and we know that's not true, right? So to fix that, you can do either a git pull or a git fetch.
Okay.
And the difference between those, well, let's say it's not important at this point. Okay, let's just do the git pull because it fully syncs again your local repo with your local repo and the working files.
Okay.
With remote repository. Yeah.
So I don't need to put in a full link at this point, because I'm already in the directory that has the repository, and it already knows where the remote link is. Okay.
Yeah, we set up that link before with git remote command. And now when you do a git pull, it will know where to find the remote master branch.
Okay. So I'll do a git pull.
Right. So fast forward, it says, which means you didn't change anything in the meantime, which is nice. Or, well, the changes that you might have made are compatible with the ones on the remote server, right?
Yeah.
So now you have, some changes. 3 lines added and 9 lines deleted, so to see.
Okay. And then from here, okay, so let's say that I go into the folder. And I pull up the project. Let's go here. This might be something that we can maybe save for next lesson, because we're starting to get a little bit long on time.
Yeah, I think we've done quite some time, but also quite a little bit of information is in there, right? So
yeah, a lot of information. My computer can't take the pain.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Yeah, but it was this one was never about the code, so it's fine. I feel like
yeah.
well, everybody knows that deleting those comments and putting some other comments back in that place, probably the behavior of the project will be exactly the same, whether it was faulty and it's still faulty now, or it was very brilliant and it's still the same now.
Okay. Just
thing is, yeah, we can work together, and yeah, the main CPP, I think that was the one I changed.
Okay. Yeah, great. So there are your changes right there.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's great. So that's a great. I think that's a great place to wrap things up for that first lesson. But yeah, what I'll do is hopefully in the next couple days I'll do like a summary of the things that we discussed and everything, and I'll upload this, and we can for people to check out that want the more detailed kind of situation.
Yeah, and one important thing is if you don't like Vim, that's fine. For example, the git ignore file, you don't have to make it with Vim. You can use any old editor. You can make it with Xcode if you need to. Yeah, it's no big deal to use whatever editor feels comfortable for you to make that file, as long as you don't try and upload the large binary files and those kinds of things onto Git.
Okay. Awesome. So the thing to take from this is don't add and commit all of the files.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time, Casper, and thanks for that. I learned a lot from that, and I hope a lot of people pick things up from that. And we'll have to do another one soon where we go into some more detail about branches and stuff like that.
For sure, yeah, and I'll get some more lights for next time.
That sounds good, man. Cool.
All right.
I'll
yeah, man, it was great doing that.